Welcome. This is Uncommon Sense, a podcast presented by the Heshi CPA Knowledge Center. The center is an initiative of the CPA Education Foundation, the charitable arm of the Chartered Professional Accountant profession in Alberta. Our episodes feature conversations with Alberta CPAs sharing their insights on a wide range of timely topics. Alberta CPAs work in every part of the economy and volunteer their time and expertise in virtually every community in Alberta. With each episode, we bring you voices and perspectives that reflect the diverse knowledge and contributions that CPAs bring to our province. Hello, I'm Jessica de Groot, Acting Manager with the CPA Education Foundation. On this episode of Uncommon Sense, I have the opportunity to speak with an Alberta CPA who has distinguished herself quite early in her career, both as a skilled professional as well as a committed volunteer. She is Tiffany Chow, CPA, CA, CBV, a partner with EI Parthenon in Edmonton. In addition to being a chartered professional accountant, Tiffany is also a chartered business valuator. She has over 14 years of experience in public practice, much of it specializing in business valuations for a diverse group of clients. In her role, Tiffany supports key business activities such as acquisitions, divestitures, tax planning, corporate restructuring, litigation, and financial reporting. Her clientele ranges from the financial services, pension funds, private equity, construction, and technology, to name a few. Obviously, Tiffany has a very busy job. Nonetheless, she has found the time to take on the role of executive sponsor of the EY Canada's Pan-Asian Professional Networks National Steering Committee. As well, she volunteers with Edmonton's Windhouse Shelter and other organizations. Tiffany is here to talk about the very unique Pan-Asian Professional Network at EY and share some of her background and stories related to her career and volunteer work. Welcome, Tiffany.
Hi, Jessica.
So as always, we are going to open the episode by asking if you have a piece of uncommon sense to share with our listeners. It's usually like a little life hack or a memorable piece of advice that you've received along the way. Do you have something like that for us?
Yeah, I had to think about this one, but it's one piece of advice that a mentor gave me very early on in my career. And it serves you well up until a point. I'm going to maybe caveat this with that. But at that point in time, I was early in my career. And so the mentor kind of told me, your job in what you're doing is to make the person above you's job easier. So it's like to make your manager's job easier, to make your partner's job easier. And I've kind of taken that into regular life in that if I can do something to lift someone else's load, that is me doing a good job in a way. But obviously there's mental health concerns and other things that you obviously need to kind of warrant. So take it with a grain of salt, but your job is to make someone else's job easier.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I'm sure depending on what role someone is in, they can take that and use it as a useful piece of advice.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, thank you for that. So to begin our discussion about you and your career, can you provide a brief overview of your career and your journey to becoming a partner at a fairly young age?
At the end of the day, I did take a very traditional route. I grew up in Edmonton, grew up in St. Albert, and kind of thought I was going to go towards science one way, and my parents definitely thought I was going to go into business and everything like that, and had to apply in secret and everything like that because I didn't want my parents to think that they knew me better than I knew myself. But joke's on me, I really fell in love with it. But once I got into business, graduated out of university, I think my life was kind of very regimented growing up. It was very culturally, you're kind of set with a lot of rules. I always came from the very strict household and everything like that. So rules served me really well growing up. And accounting, in a way, are a lot of set of rules that you kind of have to learn the rules in order to be able to take that to the next level and to help our clients understand them and interpret what those rules need to be. And so graduated university, went into EY pretty much right after that and kind of started my career. And I don't think I could tell you at that point in time when I first joined that I wanted to be a partner. I don't know what I wanted from my career at that point in time, but I knew like, hey, this is the goal. I'm going to get my CPA, and then I'm going to see what's next. And I think what the wonderful thing that public practice has afforded me and what this career has now afforded me is that it really, every step that I've taken, it's opened up new doors because I've been able to kind of be like, oh, well, what's that? And I've been curious and asking people what they do and what they like about their job and what makes them passionate. And I feel like a lot of the things is I'm inspired every day by the people around me, the people that are different than me. And so it's been a really fun journey to kind of go, oh, okay, got my CA. From there, someone kind of tapped my shoulder and was like, hey, like, have you ever heard of valuations? Do you know what that is? And at the time I was like, no, not really. So went on a few coffees and asked more questions, and then found myself in this wonderful career where I get to solve very difficult problems with a really amazingly smart people that I never have to worry about being the smartest person in the room. There's always someone to kind of to problem solve with, to collaborate with. And you're constantly surrounded by brand new students that are so eager to learn and so excited to be there. And the ability to have a culture that is vibrant and exciting. And it's hard to find that kind of going, and I've worked at like in government and in retail and things like that. And so I found it to be really, really special. And granted, we work really hard and it's hard sometimes, but I feel like that's everywhere. From there, I was able to be introduced to more people, be introduced to the Pan-Asian Professional Network, which afforded me to meet other new people. And I feel like people and my mentors have really been kind of the key factors of how I got to where I am. And I couldn't have become a partner at this young age without having these opportunities and meeting people through some of my volunteer endeavors, for lack of a better way of kind of putting it, to being where I am. And yes, I had to work hard. I had to prove that, I had the technical chops to be able to be here. I had to have people like buy into that. And I don't think I could have done this alone. And I have some really, really great sponsors that knew how to help elevate me and continue to do that every day. And I will continue to do that for probably the rest of my career. And so...
Yeah. So it kind of sounds like you were able to just kind of find your way by growing your network and seeking mentorship. Is that correct?
From day one, I love meeting new people. I love what that affords me. I think that it gives you... It's just so interesting to see how people have become where they are, and why they made the choices that they made. And then you can kind of take that away and decide, does that serve me? Or is that what I would like to see? Or is that what I would like to do? Or, oh, I don't know if that feels authentic to who I want to be. And so I'm going to take a different route, or I'm going to say no to this one thing. And then, yeah, I think building your network beyond just networking and that sort of thing, it really is building relationships. I don't know if networking seems like such a small word in what I really love to do.
Yeah, networking seems more short term, whereas you're building relationships, which is like a long term thing.
Yeah, and I like people. I like to celebrate with them. If they fail, I want to be there to support them, and because I hope that people will celebrate with me and will support me when I'm in those kind of times as well.
Awesome. Earlier in 2025, you did receive an Early Achievement Award from CPA Alberta. So this award is presented to Alberta CPAs who have really distinguished themselves while still relatively early in their careers. So congratulations on receiving that award. And how did it feel to be honored in this way by your profession?
I was honestly so surprised. I didn't I was not expecting it at all. My senior partner and mentor from a really long time, Dayton Merritt, was the one that nominated me and did it in secret, and was able to grab my community and peers and my mentees and people that were around the firm and people that were in organizations that he had no connection to and everything. And I honestly am so honored that people spent the time to pull together this nomination for me and that I was selected to be honored with it, because I look at that group of early achievement award winners and I am floored by what they've been able to achieve. And when we were sitting in the room in Kananaskis earlier this year, I was shocked at the number that I recognized, which was nice that we were able to reconnect, but also what they've been able to achieve and where they've gone. And we are so different. Like we're doing different things in different places. Some of us are in tax, some of us are in smaller towns. And the stories that were shared were so different. And it's just amazing to be a part of this huge group of people. And yeah, I was able to bring Dayton and his wife and a couple of my peers that I started at UI with, like way back in 2011 there. And it was kind of a full circle moment and a lot of fun and just like kind of a celebration of all of the hard work. And we all work really hard for the letters that we have. And I think sometimes we go to our jobs and kind of take it for granted that it took a lot of work to get to where we are. And to be recognized for that has been truly, I feel very, very grateful.
Mm-hmm. I was at the awards gala in Kananaskis as well, and I got to learn a little bit more about the selection process and everything that goes into selecting all of these award recipients. And it's something else. Like, it's quite a process, and there's like, you need to be nominated, and then there's a whole committee, and you need to gather all of this like evidence, and it's really quite spectacular. So I think that goes to show how deserving all the individuals are that do receive one of the awards from the profession.
Oh, thanks, Jessica.
I understand that one of the reasons that you received your award was because of your work with the EY Canada Pan-Asian Professional Network. What is that network and what does it do?
So the Pan-Asian Professional Network is a business resource group or an employee resource group, which are really just committees within firms that we're gathering together with some common interest or something like that. So for the Pan-Asian Professional Network, we're a professional network that is promoting the advancement, the development, and enhancement of our Pan-Asian talent and leadership within EY.
And what is your current role within the network, and what kinds of initiatives are you and your network colleagues working on these days?
Well, this is like a huge, there's lots going on. So my role right now is the executive sponsor of the National Steering Committee. So kind of back up, every city could have its own little chapter or local initiatives that they have. And so back in 2020 and 2021, we started the National Steering Committee within EY, which was to increase the connection between all of the different cities and the Pan-Asian professional networks across Canada and actually across North America for a time. And if you want to talk, like, it's kind of hard to like pinpoint. We have all of these pillars, and we really ask our members what it is that they want and what our chapters and the people that are leading those specific local chapters are requiring. So whether that is idea generation of events or sharing of event planning, things that they can put on locally, we do a national mentorship program across Canada that I was lucky enough to be a part of, and again, would really credit that to being one of the reasons how I was able to get into my partnership role as well. And we've got like national observances that are, we have Canadian Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving and all of that sort of stuff. But we have Lunar New Year and Midsummer Autumn Festival and Diwali and Ramadan and all of these other beautiful cultural events that are not necessarily stat holidays, but are just as important in our own households. And so, how do we make our people feel connected and inspired to celebrate at work or take the time to teach their colleagues about it and everything like that?
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
What was your motivation for getting involved with the Pan-Asian Professional Network?
This kind of goes back to what I was talking about when I was kind of introducing myself. I grew up in St. Albert. It is a very Caucasian neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And, for the longest time, like I thought, being Asian was a part of my identity. But it wasn't something that I felt like anyone really treated me differently for a really long time. So the stories about people bringing smelly foods to school and everything like that, I did that, but it didn't bother me as much, maybe because people didn't maybe necessarily react in such a negative manner at that point in time. But I was one of the only Asians in my school. As I started progressing, I remember having this thought, and this is a very naive thought, that I had kind of coming into my professionalism. And it's a naive thought that I hope that the world can eventually come to, where it's like, well, why do we need these like ERGs and these BRGs and things like that? Like, we all work hard. We all do what we need to do in order to advance and move up and get promoted and everything like that. And I didn't realize the impact of the Pan-Asian Professional Network until COVID hit. So COVID hit and the world shuts down. And all of a sudden, anti-Asian hate becomes a very, very prevalent thing that I've never experienced before. Before, Asian was just like a characteristic of who I was, not who I identified as. And what I quickly learned was that was not the case. During that time, I actually had my first very physical altercation of racism and things like that, which was very difficult to kind of maneuver. However, I was able to, through EY, the Pan-Asian Professional Network held a listening session. So everything's remote, everything's on Zoom or whatever. Mm-hmm. But it was the first thing I'd ever really experienced that was so different. So what happened was they brought all of our senior leadership into a call and had facilitators, and they kind of brought us all in a room and said, the world is upside down and this is not who we are. So we want you to share your stories. We want you to feel like you belong. We want you to feel like you are a part of something more. And I, for the first time, got put in a room with a whole bunch of strangers that were also Pan-Asian. Mm-hmm. And I heard my story for the first time because I was hearing stories where people were being very, either very strongly, there was some very strong microaggressions or things like that they were facing every day. And that wasn't my experience at the time. And here I was like, I grew up in a home where my parents speak two different dialects. I am Chinese. Both of them are Chinese, but we speak English at home. Mm-hmm. So I don't speak Chinese. So I never really felt like I fit with my Asian counterparts. And then I also didn't feel like I really fit with my white counterparts. And here I'm hearing someone across Canada saying the exact same story. And for the first time, I finally connected to someone else, and we were able to share this experience of not feeling like we really belonged anywhere, but then finding community in that. And then we're telling story after story and story. And it was the most powerful hour and a half. And it really was, there was no formal program, just sharing stories. And I remember leaving that being like, I want to be a part of this. Mm-hmm. And I saw the real impact that these ERGs have. It wasn't just, representation, and we want to lift everything up. And hopefully that is the goal. I truly believe that we want to increase that. But really finding the connectivity that makes people want to come to work every day was like a huge part. And so then it was, how do I become involved? And when I raised my hand and the people involved were like, okay, come and join us, I became the voice of, well, I'm in Edmonton. We have Asian folks in Edmonton, but the population is maybe not in our office, not as large as Toronto or Vancouver, where they have a local chapter. And actually, there's an organization called Ascend that is a professional network for Pan-Asians that is outside of the firms and is a professional network that really connects people in that way. And it's global, and I've met so many people there, and they're great. But Edmonton in itself, we're almost too, like, we have a big population, but there isn't enough people to maybe have like a chapter,
right?
And more volunteers for that. And so I became the voice in this national steerco of, well, what about these cities that have Asian folks, but that don't have enough people to build a specific community that way? And so that's been kind of a huge driving force of how I've continued to be involved and continue to do that. And now it's afforded me so many amazing things. So I've been able to go to the Ascend conference a couple of times, which was in the U.S., probably in the past couple of years. And then I got to meet all of these professionals. Like, I'm in a room full of like 23,000 Pan-Asian professionals. And I got asked to speak in front of them. I got to moderate a session with some of our senior leadership at EY, and to have this group of people feel the same thing I felt during that listening session while I was speaking was one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had in my career. And again, while I'm building all of these relationships, it really kind of ties back to how I got to my partnership, is because I got afforded the ability to build a relationship with these people and these senior leaders that were outside of just the work. And like, the work was just the table stakes, almost.
Yeah. Well, no, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. I remember when that was happening throughout COVID, and just thinking how terrible it was that people were saying things like that. But do you think that maybe that one of the good things, that just thinking about what you said about being able to connect more with smaller centers that maybe didn't have a large Asian population in their workplace, maybe one of the good things to come out of COVID was that it really normalized virtual communication. So then you would be able to communicate with them so much more than you would have ever been able to before.
I think it's like a double-edged sword. I think it is amazing because there are now connections that I have like across North America that I would never have made had it not been for being afforded this ability to have a national steering committee, which would have been so much more difficult in the previous model and the way that we used to do business, in that, you know, everything was in person and everything. And don't get me wrong, I really miss in-person meetings, which I'm so glad that we're across the table
here. Yeah.
But the fact that I can now be a part of this national group that has people from across the country, and that we are able to find what all of our respective cities require of us and come together to kind of do things together and actually be able to achieve them. Because if it's like a virtual webcast or, you know, like pulling event details together so that someone would have like a roadmap on how to like host a Lunar New Year event or something like that. And like, one of the things I'm most excited about that we're about to do is for Lunar New Year, for our members, we went and got red pockets that we're going to send to the different cities, and the different cities will stuff them and hand them out to their members. But that's something that we're able to do as a national activation that, like before, maybe each individual city would have to think about and do for themselves. Whereas now it's like, okay, no, we've centralized, like this is something we want everyone to feel and everyone to do. And it doesn't matter if you have a Pan Asian Professional Network chapter, like we're sending it to different cities that don't have those chapters, but that are excited and say, oh yeah, like we'll host something. I think like our London office in Ontario every year kind of like blows us out of the water that they have decorations and set up the lunchroom and have them all handing out, and they even ask some of the other members like what are their traditional things that they do on New Year's, and so there was a lot of oranges that which is like a fruit of prosperity and everything. So they had a whole bunch of oranges in the red pockets, and so you can grab an orange in a red pocket and go about your day. And it was very like, it's just fun, and it's cool to see what all of these different people are, because again, your world gets so narrow just based off the people. If the people around you are like you, which usually they end up being, your world gets more and more narrow. So I don't know, it's fun to open it up a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like the more that others can get to know more about different cultures and stuff, it's just, it does really open your eyes. I had my kids, they do at their daycare, they do like multicultural days. And I often feel like, I don't know what to do for them because, I'm Caucasian and we have the normal Caucasian celebrations that we have, but we don't have like the we don't have fancy outfits and stuff. Like I see these kids coming in their cultural, dresses and stuff, and from like Indian cultures and Asian cultures, and I'm like, oh, they look so good. And like my kids are wearing like their normal clothes. So it is beautiful to be able to share that in any aspect, I think.
But let's be real. Santa Claus is like top notch, okay? And like,
they know all about Santa.
And I don't know, my family, we still do, we love turkey, and we love, like, I don't know, I think it's just the sharing of what we have. Like, I feel like one specific thing doesn't need to be for one person, and I think it's just so much fun when you get to share it. And your kids being in this daycare now, I think it's going to be so much fun as they grow up that they know, like, oh, it's Lunar New Year. Like, if they have friends that have them, like, hopefully their families are just as warm and welcoming to share that with them, and they can experience more, and they can choose what they want to celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely. You already touched on, I think, a ton of benefits to being involved in this network, from, just being able to relate to others within your community and sharing your culture more widely, and really getting the whole organization involved. But in your view, how does your organization benefit from supporting the network?
Honestly, I feel like when people find connection and feel like when there's inclusion kind of in the thread of who a company is, that naturally connects people to people. People don't quit jobs. Like yes, if your job sucks or whatever, but people usually quit people, right? And so if you give them a reason to love the people that they're around, that just, the boost of morale and like that sort of thing, like the work is going to be the work and we're going to get it done. And if you have strong performing people that most accountants have to be in order to get to where they are, this just gives them a level of connection that is something outside of their job, that makes them want to come into the office, that wants to celebrate with their coworkers, that wants to, be included, and then sees that this is something that's important to, beyond just, like, I feel like it's something that is important to community in general and not just even a company or a person.
Yeah, that's so true. And even, there's always going to be days wherever you are where your work that you have to do, you're not going to like it, or it sucks, right? But what really kind of gets you through is working with people and having that connection with your coworkers and having fun a little bit.
Yeah, we at EY, we have a moment, we call it spooky season, when it's been a long day, when it's been a hard day, and maybe the day hasn't been going the way we want, but at one point in time we were all giggling and we're all just going a little bit nuts, and
everyone's at their wits' end.
Yeah. spooky season for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So besides your volunteer work with the network, you also lend your time and expertise to Edmonton's Win House. Can you just describe a little bit about what is Win House and what is your role with that organization?
Yeah, so Win House is an emergency shelter that serves women, children, and non-binary individuals. And it's been a part of Edmonton for over 50 years now. I believe even over 55 years. I'm pretty sure there was a celebration recently on that. And it has just been a staple in this community to providing women a safe place to escape from domestic violence, which is it's tough to know. For those women, they're so brave to even ask for help in those moments and to have a place to actually go and be a part of that. So
that's fantastic. What led to your involvement with Win House?
Again, I was chatting with some friends and kind of saying, I want to become more involved. I want to be volunteering more, and in this case, one of my friends, who was a male at the time, came up to me and said, hey, I was approached to be a part of this board, but I don't know if it's the right fit for me. But I thought of you if you want to meet with the president of the board and everything like that. And I went in, I met them, and it was pretty early in my career. I think I was just a manager at the time. So it was, but I was able to get on as a board member early on because they needed some more volunteers in that moment. And I've seen the board of that organization change from so significantly to now where it's just been announced that they're about to, they are helping build kind of another building on the north end that is going to be kind of a community space and more shelter services and everything like that. And so it's just expanded into this amazing organization that's really helping the community and helping these women that are in the scariest moments of their life, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you've been involved with other organizations in volunteer capacities over the years. Where does this dedication to volunteer come from? And what do you gain from being so involved in your community?
I don't know if it's when I saw this question and I was kind of mulling it over, I don't know if dedication is the right word, because I think it really stems from, I really love getting to know people and what are they passionate about and why are they doing the things that they're doing and what are the cool things that they are doing, because I think it inspires me and I want to help support them in those goals that they have. I hope that I'm as creative as them someday to be able to come up with my own idea, but in this time where I'm still kind of meeting people and learning. I don't even know if it's really learning, but it's just I'm so curious as to what has inspired them to do what they do, to be so passionate to start a women's shelter or for them to be a part of a professional network that is some of the ideas that are coming through on that. And the other organizations that I'm involved in, the volunteers that have gotten me involved have been Edmonton Folk Fest, for example. The person that got me involved has been involved with it for so many years. And it's such a cool experience to be a volunteer in those moments. And what makes him passionate and hearing him talk about music and that sort of thing. I don't know. I just love being around people that are very excited about what they're doing. And I think that gets me just as excited. And kind of circling it back, it really just helps build more relationships. It helps open my eyes up to different types of people. And it has really served me in I believe that I've gotten to where I am, and the partnership that I've received is kind of in part because of these opportunities that I was given, because of the people that I met, because I kind of just got put in front of these different people and spent time getting to know them. And I am really curious and I'm really excited about people. And
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, people or individuals like you who are willing to get involved, that's what these organizations need. Because if nobody steps up, then they don't happen, right? So, good for you for getting out there, and the more people you know too never hurts, right?
Yeah. And it's fun.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, that seems like the perfect place to wrap up. Tiffany, it's been so great chatting with you. So thank you so much for taking the time to be on the podcast and sharing your story with us. The work that you're doing is really fascinating, and you're definitely making a positive difference in so many ways. So thanks again, and best wishes to your continued career success.
Thanks, Jessica. This was really fun. I'm glad to chat with you.
The Uncommon Sense podcast is presented by the CPA Education Foundation and funded by the Heshe CPA Knowledge Center. The Knowledge Center was created through a generous donation by the late Brian Heshe. Brian was a distinguished Albertan, business leader, CPA, educator, and community builder. His generosity and commitment to education underpinned his good works across Alberta throughout his lifetime. The opinions expressed on Uncommon Sense do not necessarily reflect the views of the CPA Education Foundation. We would like to acknowledge that CPA Education Foundation offices are situated on the traditional Treaty 6 and Treaty 7 territories and Métis Nation homeland. The Foundation acknowledges that we reside on traditional and ancestral territories of many Indigenous, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. Their histories and culture influence our community to this day. The Foundation is committed to helping build a province where Indigenous people and their voices and experiences are heard, valued, respected, and celebrated. Technical and recording services for this podcast provided by Wolf Willow Studios in Edmonton. If you enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about us. If you have any comments about the podcast, write to us at cpaef@cpaalberta.ca. To learn more about the CPA Education Foundation and the Heshe CPA Knowledge Center, visit cpaalberta.ca/foundation. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for the CPA Education Foundation.